I'm Kevin Casey. I'm a professional mixed martial arts fighter. And right now what I'm about to do is issue a warning out to all other competitors.
I don't want overs. I just expect them to happen.
Fatty's gonna fatty is real.
Oh, give me fucking truth, baby! Come on! Let's go!
How have I been this successful in life?
Good question, sir. But you gotta give the man credit. Credit is due. The golf's happening. So, Lance, pour one out for you.
It's about damn time. That's what we'll say. Back to back.
It's a good thing that he was so unconfident in his bets that I haven't been playing them for most of the year.
Oh, okay.
So
yep.
I appreciate that. But I also didn't win the big one last week. So I just got it this week. But it's not Wes this week, Jeff. It's not Wes's fault. It's us. Summertime.
It's summertime.
Yeah, we only get 4 months of sun a year in Canada. So we got to enjoy it when we've got it. It's probably still sunlight outside where Shaun is. It looks beautiful over there.
That's the natural light to my right.
He's getting a tan while we speak, folks. He's going to need to change the setup so he can bask in the sunlight for these next 2 months. But we are here. We're back. Fights were back. Did fights go away? I don't know. I think there was a week where there weren't fights. I don't know. I didn't miss them. I didn't miss them this weekend when I didn't watch them either. So
it was the pay-per-view, and then we had a week off, and then we got UFC Kansas City. So
fair enough. So yeah, just 1 week that I completely didn't pay attention to. Is that going to be 2? That's the question of the day. Shaun, how you doing?
Well, nice cold bets. I mean, I can play too much because I'm still up, a handful of units this year. But was an ugly showing for UFC Kansas City. I should have given less fucks and not just bet it because I'd have much more money. But I couldn't help myself because I'm dumb. But yeah, it's a great time of year. It's not an amazing time of year for the UFC, but it's an amazing time of year for mostly everything else because it's NHL playoffs, which there's not much that can top that. And then we got the lax playoffs and NBA. I mean, it doesn't get really.
The first round usually is dog shit for the NBA.
Did you see the score in the Cavaliers Heat game? At like halftime, it was like 90-40 or some shit.
Yeah. There were a couple games like that in that series. It was
my God.
They are the one league that's expanded playoffs, but should have retracted playoffs.
I mean, of course, they're never gonna do that, but it's tough. I mean, I don't know if now they're kind of forcing people to play a bit more if they give a shit about awards and stuff like that. I don't know how much that has affected the playing of the superstars and stuff like that. So then you would have some good teams that wouldn't be the top or second best team in their conference, and then you might get an okay first round, but first round NBA is a bit dreadful. First round of NHL hockey is the best. Like there's just so many games going on, and it's fun because I mean
the gap in hockey is like teams 1 to 4 are great, and then teams 5 to 25 can all beat each other at any time. It's wonderful. So not a lot compares to that. If the NBA did like a 6-team playoff, where if you're a first or second seed, you get a bye, 3-6, 4-5, and that was the first round instead of like the 8-9, 9-10 bullshit that they do now, that would actually probably be fantastic. But the best teams in the NBA are so much better than the 12th, to 16th teams in the NBA that it is incredibly uninteresting. But
I took a peek at the standings just for shits and giggles. I don't really follow basketball. The Raptors haven't been good for a while, so I'm not really clued in. And just like, it's wild how many very bad teams there are record wise. And then you even look at the teams that make the playoffs and then just get smoked by the good teams, and you're just like, what are we doing here? Like,
yeah, it's in the Eastern Conference. It's honestly almost impossible to tank. So, like, even the Wizards, I had the under 20.5 for the Wizards this year. And even in that, almost like started to get to a sweat because they were winning games against other horrible teams. But that's a different story. We're here to talk about the fighting, the punchy kickery, as you will. We had some of it last week. Shaun, you set the over-under for fights that I watched at 1.5. I assume if it was set at 1.5, you would have played the under 1.5 because you're a smart man.
Of course.
If it was set at 0.5, what would you have played?
That's probably a pass for me. That's that gets Gary when you're betting the old half.
I watched 45 seconds of the final fight of the card. It was after all of the good sports were over. So I was like, hey, we've got a second screen still. There's UFC on. So watch that. And it seemed like Carlos Freitas was kicking Ian Gary's ass for the entire fight. And then they read the scorecards, and it was unanimous decision for Gary. And then I very much appreciated my decision to not watch the fight because I assumed that the preceding 40 or 24 minutes and round breaks were terrible to watch. So that was the main event. Am I correct?
For the most part. Gary is good. He's well-rounded. He's just another one of these guys that doesn't seem to be too elite at anything, which is, I mean, it gets him wins. It's just they're ugly and nobody's gonna want to watch. I bet Freitas small and was regretting my bet as after one round. I was just like, oh, this is gonna be dreadful, and then not really too sure exactly what happened. I don't know if he gassed out. I don't know if, Rajas just he might, and Rajas just started to do stuff later in the fight. But yeah, it's tough to make a Rajas fight boring, and Gary for the most part did. So the only fun part was really when he kind of seemed like he was falling apart in the 5th round. So that's always good for a guy that's supposedly going to be the backup fight for UFC 315.
Yeah, like I don't want to seem like the after the fact guy, but Freitas was super hyped after getting a bunch of knockouts coming into the UFC with a 15-6 record. Yeah. Like, he was a guy that lost a bunch to not very good fighters. And like, as far as the skill talent level, I've come around on Gary because, like, how could you not? It's not fun to watch, but it's effective. And there's a guy who has struggled against decent or less than decent guys on the regional scene, facing a guy who's pretty good at doing what he does that nobody wants to watch. And that guy ended up winning. Rest of the main card, Minyang Zhang TKO's Anthony Smith. You think? No, he couldn't be. Couldn't be the House Invader, because the House Invader couldn't ground and pound Anthony Smith. They went to a draw. Everybody knows that. So Minyang Zhang, you're off the hook. David Onama, unanimous decision over Giga. I I guess the Giga kick is no more. It's a thing of the past. Abbas Magomedov got a unanimous decision over Michel Pereira. The big controversy coming out of that one, of course, is that he didn't look good in his dance on the way to the octagon. So obviously something was wrong and he was going to lose. That's how MMA works, clearly. 2 more main card fights. Andy Brown knocks out Nicholas Dalby. It takes some shit to knock that dude out because, the Jaeger shots couldn't do it, but Randy Brown could. And getting the hype train, maybe planting some seeds again. Ikram Aliskerov, first round knockout over Andre Muniz. Shaun, thoughts on the main card?
I bet the over 1.5 in the Anthony Smith fight. That was very, very dumb. I've been a guy that's faded Anthony Smith so much, and I was just like, you know what? He's gonna lose. But I think he can get his ass kicked for 7.5 minutes. And then this Chinese man just fucking elbowed him to oblivion. And that was dumb on my part. Gotta love Anthony Smith getting like a retirement video package. Like, this guy was the most mid fucking fighter that, got a title shot and could have stole a belt, but he was dumb. So I guess they gave him
but he had warrior spirit, which is all that really matters in the end, right?
That's why they gave him a job after. They're like, oh, he didn't fuck over Bones. We'll give him a job for a couple years.
Who very close to becoming the longest reigning champion ever in 2 weight divisions. A very prestigious and honorable distinction given his high level of activity in the heavyweight division.
Yeah. Just an absolute fucking waste. I didn't really tune into the Anama Giga fight. And I don't know if Pereira got drugged in the back, but he just looked like he was, sick or just on some Ambien or something, because he just didn't really do anything. And he does stuff. It's not usually effective, especially against good fighters, but he does stuff, stupid stuff. But he did nothing. It was very, very perplexing. The Brown Dalby fight was a banger. Like, if you find some time that you're super bored and want to just see just a wild fight, that was actually a fun one to watch for however long it lasted. And the Aliskerov fight, yeah, I mean, Muniz was just, man, we thought, I don't know if he just got on the gear or what happened. He just, hindsight, he beat a bunch of wash dudes or whatnot, but that's a fall
he
from
could really
grace.
Grapple against a bunch of guys who couldn't grapple at all.
I mean, except Jacare. He fucking armbarred Jacare.
That was like, that wasn't even that was Jacare's arm just like falling apart because he was ancient. Like, he didn't even actually get him in an armbar.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So I don't know. I don't know how good Aliskerov is. He gets smoked by Whitaker.
Not very.
Beats these bums. It's 185. Who knows? He can probably beat some guys, but I don't think he's anything too special.
He's like probably high end a top 6 guy at middleweight, which also means like he could not be a top 20 guy.
Yep.
So yeah, then that's where he is. One fight that I'm almost certain was spectacular to watch was Matt Schnell getting unanimous decision over Jimmy Flick. That fight, like, first of all, just like fight in general, but then it going to decision sounds absolutely remarkable. Some stupid shit had to happen there. So I'm glad that one happened. Evan Elder, unanimous decision over Gage Young. Sure. Chris Gutierrez probably calf kicked his way to a split decision over John Castaneda. Damon Blackshear, unanimous decision over Hailey Alateng. Malcolm Wellmaker, first round knockout over the South African. And Jacqueline Amorim, a second round rear naked choke over Pauliana Viana. Shaun, what are we doing here? Timothy Kwamba, second round, flying knee. Yeah. Was that so? This guy won it with a flying knee. Was this his UFC? Apparently, this was his third fight in the UFC. Holy shit! I didn't even see like a clip of this on Twitter, the Everything app. Shaun, are people just completely checked out at this point? Like nobody cares about anything?
I don't. Yeah, like I don't know if it's nothing really lasts. It's basically you might catch it by night.
It seems like it's done.
Yeah, that's for the most part. It was a nice flying knee, but when it's buried on UFC Kansas City and the guy is 1-2 in the UFC.
Yeah, I get it.
I mean, the KO was fucking violent. That was a nice one. I don't know if you saw that one either, but that one's worth searching the old Twitter for that one. It was a nice clean knockout, but like I said, doesn't matter. No, but it's cool to watch. At least it didn't take up 30 minutes of your life.
I think when you translate apartheid from South African to English, you can't spell it without KO. So that did it right there. Apparently there was also Jocelyn Edwards getting a first round KO.
Yeah.
Over Chelsea Chandler. Sure. Yeah, that happened too. And that was the card that they brought to the wonderful people of Kansas City, who I've never visited Kansas City. I hear it has great barbecue. I would probably love to go down there and have some barbecue at some point, but I think I'm going to give it a couple years. Not in any rush at the moment. But this week, we are heading to a place that I am equally not going to visit. Des Moines, Iowa. Home. Well, not home, because that was like a different little shitty town. Davenport, Iowa, I believe, was the home of the Militich fighting systems. Honestly, I liked this sport more when there was some little hick town in Midwestern Iowa that was one of the most influential cities or spaces in the sport. It was fun. But we're going back there. I'm sure we'll get Matt Hughes on camera waving, if he can still wave at this point. I don't know. Pat Miller. Too soon?
Not really.
And then, Militich and all the boys. Maybe Tim Sylvia is still wearing his UFC championship belt around. The whole crew. I hope everybody's there. And they induct them all into the Hall of Fame. Actually, that's not a terrible idea. Like inducting a gym of a certain era into the UFC Hall of Fame.
Yeah. It's not bad, but it's something that the UFC would never do.
Of course not. Anyway, we've got Corey Sandhagen, Davison Figueiredo in the main event, which is a fantastic fight. I mean, it doesn't have anything to do with Iowa, but sure, there's a very, very white man in one of the fights, so I guess that's close enough. And then a bunch of other stuff. What do we have? 12 fights on this card?
keeping it slim.
Well,
Maybe we get 1 or 2 cancellations, and then it should be a decent night.
When I first opened up the Tapology page for this, I was just reading through. I was like, yeah, ESPN Plus, UFC, blah, blah, blah. Oh, Wells Fargo Arena. They're doing this in Philly because Philly also has the Wells Fargo Arena. And I was like, oh, they're doing it in Iowa. All right, sure, whatever. But anyway, they're going to kick off the night, get the people in their seats with Juliana Miller and Ivana Petrovic in the women's flyweight division. Shaun, I don't pay attention to a lot of Ultimate Fighter stuff, but Juliana Miller was the one that they were like, yeah, she's the female Diaz, right? Was that her?
Could be. That was a while ago. It's like 3 years ago, and she's lost her fights since then. I don't really remember that. So we need the tough expert
for that.
This.
Yeah.
We need Wes, of course. He for some reason loves to torture himself and still watch tough fights. He's weaned himself off of the other antics, but he still wants to watch fights, which I guess. But some of us have a couple more better things to do.
Old dog can't learn new tricks. So we love our Wesley. Happy 45th.
Yikes.
The old man. Looks not a day over 37. I don't have any thoughts on that one. I don't care at all.
Yeah, I don't care. These ladies are combined 2-4 in the UFC. Their 2 wins are against fighters that are combined 0-6 in UFC. This is bottom of the fucking barrel. Don't care.
Next up, not much higher in the fucking barrel. Heavyweights. Kind of t-shirt in the pool, but it's not even like entertaining enough to give it that credit. Don't ask, don't tell, Mays. Thomas Peterson. Shaun, we've got a heavyweight total that's just juiced to oblivion.
It's almost to the point where you kind of actually have to look at the other side. I forget, there's been a somewhat recent one. I know Wes, I talked about it on the podcast. I think it was one that me and you just did it. Wes wasn't on it. He ended up taking it. Of course, I didn't, and it hit. These guys are terrible, but they are big fat dudes, and sometimes big fat dudes fall down.
They hit hard,
and they hit hard and they fall down. So, these overs when you're looking at like under 1.5 at like plus 220, or even under 2.5 at like plus 130. Maybe it's gone too far. They caught on to the fatties, and now maybe it's just a bridge too far. So if I was forced to play something, it might actually be under, but I really don't care. Sure, I'll pick Peterson.
Also don't care. Peterson's the more likely one to be able to hold Mays up against the cage. Maybe get like a takedown and something could happen from there. But I mostly agree about the bigger trend is they're going a bit too far, especially now that the quality of heavyweight is starting to really drop. Like, it's always been bad, but it's getting worse. So now there's guys where like, oh yeah, he's in the UFC. Now he's not just going to be able to fall on top of a guy and pound him out. Where like, now you're like, he's in the UFC, but he still might fall on top of this guy and pound him out in like 30 seconds. So I think we're getting towards that point with these totals. And I don't know that this is the one, but I think that this going over quite easily again might help us get to the one. And that's probably going to be Peterson winning a decision. Bantamweight division. Gaston Bolaños taking on Huang Li. It's bad, Shaun.
It's more bad. It's more bad. Huang Li obviously 0-2 in the UFC, and somehow Gaston Bolaños has 2 wins. Of course, they're against some pretty good big scrubs, and he's been taken down a bunch in his career. Is he going to get taken down by Huang Li? It's possible. This is another one. Like, what are we doing here? Bolaños probably wins. He has more power. If he can keep it on the feet a bit longer than he is laying on the ground, he probably wins and maybe gets a finish. I don't know. It's not good. Not good. More not good.
Was it Waldo and Ryan Spann? Was that the one where we were like, the under on this is like plus 180?
That sounds familiar.
I think that might have been it. That feels right. Anyway, I mentioned that because I don't care about this fight. Like, it's gonna happen. I'm not gonna watch it. There's gonna be people that watch it, and like I'm probably gonna be, doing whatever I'm doing, scrolling Twitter, and there's gonna be people tweeting like scorecards for the rounds in this fight, and I'm just gonna be like, oh man, that's why. Like that's sad. Anyway, that's that fight. Next up, women's strawweight division, former title challenger Marina Rodriguez taking on pound for pound Canada number 2, Jillian Robertson. Sorry, the other one's Rodriguez. This is Robertson. I know what I'm talking about. Shaun, this is like almost a real fight between 2 capable fighters.
Yeah, I mean, it's still women's strawweight, which at one point was decent. On the grand scheme of things, now it's a bit rough, but these ladies are obviously trending in the opposite directions. Rodriguez 1-4 in the last 5, and I think Robertson's 4-1 or 5-1 in the last 6. There's obviously a pretty big difference between the how good of fighters that each of these fighters are facing. So now they kind of meet to see what happens. To me, it's a fairly straightforward fight. If Rodriguez can stuff some takedowns, she's going to be better on the feet. Robertson, she's got better, but she's still a grappler. Rodriguez struggles with grappling, but she struggles with Jessica Andrade, Andy Jobs, Amanda Lemos, like upper level strawweights. Is Robertson that good of a grappler? I guess we'll find out. This price is pretty high on Robertson. So I know we talk about dog ladies when it's a kind of lower level. This isn't the lowest level, and that kind of hasn't been true, especially last year, a little more maybe this year. But I think Rodriguez can stuff some takedowns, and then this becomes a close fight on the feet. And with kind of how stuff's being judged, you actually have to do something when you're grappling. If you're just kind of holding position, I know Robertson goes for subs and stuff like that, but Rodriguez has fairly good sub defense, so I'm probably gonna have to take a small shot on Marina Rodriguez, sadly. But that's what this card is coming to.
Well, where I stand. We talked about this one before, and we're gonna do something a little special for the consensus bet of the week this week. And we're going to do a consensus round robin So the first leg of said round robin is going to be Marina Rodriguez by decision, because, she doesn't have much power. Jillian Rodriguez is pretty tough. And if this turns into anything other than 15 minutes of Jillian Rodriguez top control, she's going to be losing the fight. Like, simple as that. And she's not got the greatest offensive wrestling. I know Rodriguez isn't like an elite defensive wrestler, which is why she has never had success at the top of the division. But I think this could be a relatively interesting matchup when it comes to the wrestling, and Rodriguez could stuff enough that she's going to be able to win the stand-up. I think that's fairly clear, and steal this on the judges' scorecards, or just win it outright if it turns into a striking battle. So Marina Rodriguez, decision, like 400, 450 range, anything plus like 400. That. I think that's worth a shot on this fight. So that is going to be the first leg of the round robin. Next up, I'm so excited for the most middleweight creative fighter names of all time. Azamat Bekaev, generic Russian dude. Ryan Loder, generic American dude. We've got a battle here, Shaun. Who is more generic at middleweight? Take it away.
Yeah, don't have too much here. Both these guys just absolutely ran over the guys that they fought in their UFC debut. The guy with the EF is obviously getting a little more credence, a little more backing. Obviously, if you look at the lines. To be fair to him, he fought in LFA, which is a good regional promotion, and obviously did well there. Was the champion, and so he probably comes in and smokes the generic 33-year-old that lost at Uriah Faber's promotion.
That's
back
not
in 2023.
Sure, he was in Uriah Faber's promotion because he's a Faber guy.
Yeah, he's an alpha male guy, so I'm assuming they lined him up accordingly, and he was not able to
lost
defeat Troy Green.
A split decision, which means that he got like 30-26, and they were just like, can we do it for him? No, not quite. It was too obvious.
And since that fight, the man that he lost to, Troy Green, is 1-3. So I guess I'll take the guy with the EF on the back end of his name.
Also similar, except he's just fighting in ACB or ACA or ACD or ACDC or whatever they're calling it this week. And from every card I've ever watched in that promotion, everybody you fight knows how to fight. It's quality fighters over there, and he's only lost super late in fights or split decisions, which maybe that means he's got a gassing problem. Is the 33-year-old who only has a couple of fights of MMA experience going to be the dude that actually teases that out of you? I doubt it. I have no interest in betting this fight, but we're going to go with Bekaev to get the job done. Bantamweight division, women's bantamweight division. It's kind of sad that this is even happening, because Miesha Tate has been around longer than the UFC's women's divisions, and yet she still has to fight, even though being allegedly one of the biggest stars in those divisions. But she's fighting Yana Kunitskaya Santos. That's it. No joke. The fight is the joke.
The fight is the joke. Sure. I mean, Miesha Tate probably gets takedowns, and this is going to be dreadful unless she somehow subs Yana Kunitskaya Santos. She has been subbed before, so I don't know if you're looking for something to do. Throw a dart on old Miesha Tate by sub, but you could probably find something better to do for 30 minutes.
Dog walk.
Mm.
And it's like right at the end of the prelims. So you know that like even if the previous fight ended early, you're not going to miss anything. It's a perfect dog walk fight. I think that's a great idea. I'll pick Miesha because why not? Who cares? And then we move it on to the main card. And Jeremy Stephens is fighting tonight, folks. If you're watching this on Saturday. If you're watching it on Wednesday, or he's fighting in the future at some point. But anyway, it's a throwback to when he got arrested. And then Dana was like, hey, I'm going to break this dude out of jail to get him to fight. And then he didn't because Dana's a lying liar, as people in MMA tend to be. And, you know how it goes with the way of the world these days. But this could actually be fun to watch because it might just be chaos between two dudes who have absolute cinder blocks for heads. Jeremy Stephens, Mason Jones, lightweight division. Shaun, should be fun.
Should be. Weird fight, obviously. Jeremy Stephens signs a 1-fight deal to fight in Des Moines, Iowa. He had a pretty rough go at the end of his UFC career, and then wasn't amazing in the old PFL, and then is all of a sudden just unbeatable in bare knuckle boxing.
From the streets, baby.
he is something. Shared some things with him a couple times after his fights, and he is what you would expect him to be. But Mason Jones, he gets cut, goes to Cage Warriors, and smokes a bunch of mediocre dudes, and now he's a minus 525, minus 600 in some places favorite. I don't know. Like, is he gonna grapple Jeremy Stephens? Is he gonna have that much success grappling Jeremy Stephens? Maybe. But that number seems pretty wide. Stephens is obviously going to be hyped up. He is obviously going to fight for your money. So I wouldn't be surprised if this becomes a bit closer. If Jones just blue balls him and ruins this fight, that would be very lame, but maybe they'll have a gentleman's agreement to have a bit more of a fun fight. So Stephens, come on. Let's see one of the trademark violent KOs, even though Mason Jones doesn't really get KO'd.
That would make it even better.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm looking for a way, because Shaun and I had an agreement before the show started that we were going to do the round robin. We had 3 of them set aside. And I said, if you can talk me into something else, then I'm not going to do this. But
look at these prelims.
Can you talk me to something else and in the main card, or are we stuck here?
I think we're stuck.
I'll do it. I love it. Jeremy Stephens. We're just going to do money line because this could just be like chaos on the feet. Jeremy Stephens to win a fight in front of the hometown crowd might just toss in a takedown too. He's not above that. I've seen him do it before. But Mason Jones is not the type of guy that should be minus 500 in a UFC fight. We've seen this before because like we saw him get hyped before as the British dude coming in who like was the whole package and whatever. But I think like his style combined with Jeremy Stevens is just going to turn this into a slugfest. And I kind of trust Jeremy Stevens in a slugfest. So we're going to go with that as the second leg of the round robin. I think you can find that pretty much plus 400 or better anywhere. So we're dealing with some decent prices to this point, folks. No prop on that one because it could be something silly, or it could just be 15 minutes of what should be pretty entertaining if it does go 15 minutes. Next up, bantamweight division, Cameron Smotherman, Sergey Side, who is like pound for pound number 6 Canadian, but because we're not sure if he's actually Canadian or like half Canadian, he might be 12. So we're going to say he's 12 Canadian. They're fighting. What do we think is going to happen here, Shaun?
I don't know. I'm just curious why a guy like this, or even Robertson earlier, like they're fighting in Canada next week. Why are they not on the card? And instead they're fighting in Des Moines, Iowa.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Like, you would think the UFC, if they kind of thought that they were going to win this fight, that they would probably put them on a UFC Canada card, but they're not. So that makes me kind of think that Smotherman might be the side here. I don't know. It's hard to know what these guys are. There's not much tape on them in the UFC. They've both kind of shown some holes in their game. So I'll just watch this and hopefully it's fun, because if it's not, that it's a waste of 30 minutes.
Yeah, to me, this is like when I think about 2025 UFC, I think about this fight, which is just like
on a main card,
generic bantamweight dudes who they're actually pretty good. Mm-hmm. I don't care. I have no reason to care. I think it would be an entertaining fight if I tune into it. Will I do that? We'll see. Probably not, if we're being honest. But yeah, I agree with the bigger point and kind of what we were alluding to earlier with the Rodriguez Robertson pick. If they thought they were going to do well in these fights, why not book them for Canada in 1 week? So yeah, Smotherman. Continuing on, bantamweight division, Daniel Marcos, Montel Jackson, allegedly large hands. He does the clinching and stuff. They talk about it every time. I'm not sure if you know this.
I don't. I don't know. Montel Jackson's weird because like he has a shit ton of wins in the UFC and doesn't really get step ups. I mean, I guess this is a step up. It's just
it's also
Daniel Marcos.
30. Like, he's not young for a bantamweight. Like, if he's gonna
like, let's
shit or get off the pot, dude. Come on.
Right? Like, so I don't know if they just don't like him to match him up, with somebody in the top 15 or close to it. I don't know. Montel Jackson obviously has some of the biggest power at this weight class. I'm assuming he has the record for knockdowns for bantamweights in the UFC. Just looking at his
like 74 against JP Buys.
He got 4. He got 4 in 15 minutes. Probably should have been able to put him away. I think that was one where people said that he should have there could have been a stoppage there. But yeah, like I mean he's got a knockdown in every one of his last 7 fights. Like he's got big power. Marcos has never been dropped. You know, he has pretty good striking, was able to, you know, compete on the feet against Yanez, who's got pretty good striking. It's an interesting fight because like I don't know, like is Marcos going for takedowns? He probably should. Is he going to get takedowns? Jackson's, you know, if he's not fighting elite wrestlers or very good wrestlers like Brett Johns and Ricky Simone, then they don't really take him down too much. So it's an interesting fight. It should be fun, and you know, I side with the guy that has bigger power. I think in Jackson. He might not be able to drop him, but I think he will be doing the more damaging, noticeable strikes in what could be a close fight.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. I like Montel Jackson here. This is how he do it. Like stop takedowns if he needs to, but I'm not sure it's going to turn into that. So probably just be the longer guy and have the power that you have and trust it. And just because Daniel Marcos is undefeated and like hasn't been knocked down in the UFC doesn't mean that he can't be. I definitely watched this man lose to Davy Grant.
He did.
He 100% lost that fight. I will
Garbage.
go to my grave saying that one. And if you can lose a striking battle to Davy Grant in 2022 or 2023, whenever that fight was, you can definitely lose to Montel Jackson. So we're picking Jackson here. I don't think there's a bet to be had on that one. So we'll move it along to the welterweight division. We've got the old pontoon boat, Santiago Ponzinibbio, taking on Daniel Rodriguez. Shaun.
Interesting fight. I kind of get why it's lined the way it is. That it's basically a pick'em. Pontoon boat is very old, and D-Rod's the same age. I think that the pontoon boat's a bit more weathered. And you know, he has been kind of showing his age recently in these fights and getting cracked and dropped. And you know, he has come back in a couple of these fights where he got cracked and dropped, but that kind of only lasts so long when you're 39 years old or almost 39 years old. D-Rod's a guy that, you know, I've bet on a bit. I think I've been hoodwinked a bit by this guy because I kind of just always thought, you know, he had big power when he started his UFC career. He had a decent amount of knockdowns and knockouts, but you know, recently, you know, not being able to, you know, do much against, you know, really drop Kevin Lee back in 2021. Neil Magny's been chinny for a bit now and couldn't get much done there and just pissed away that fight. And then Alex Morono, like that chin is there to be hit, and you know, he won that fight, but it was close and he wasn't really able to do too much damage. So I don't know, it's the initial lean is D-Rod. Maybe he does have enough power to check the chin that is the pontoon boat at 38 years old, but it's probably a close fight, and it wouldn't be a sad thing to see the pontoon boat get one more win. He's been kind of a beauty for a long time, and you know, there was a time where he was getting close to a title shot, and he had kind of some things go against him, and that was a bit unfortunate. So I'll probably go with the heart and pick the pontoon boat.
Yeah, I think like we're pretty much on the same page, except my initial reaction was like, Daniel Rodriguez doesn't hurt people anymore. He just is in super close fights that he ends up losing. And Pontoon Boat has been around long enough, arguably too long, that sometimes those things don't go his way. And some other times, like if it gets into a tight fight, he can end up pulling that out. So I think that's kind of the case here, where it's just going to be a super close, super competitive fight. I'm going to pick the old Pontoon because my heart's in the right place. I'm not going to bet it because, like, what is there to bet on this fight? It's a pick 'em. I don't know. I haven't seen anybody make a good argument that it shouldn't be a pick 'em fight. Like, it's just going to be something super competitive. The over's juiced to like 230, 240. So don't want to bet that. And like, as much as these guys are aging and allegedly have good power, they don't knock a lot of people out, and they're pretty durable. So I don't see there being a finish. But like, it's there. They're old. They get hit. So yeah, just pass for me. But it should be fun, and we'll pick the Pontoon for old time's sake. Co-main event, middleweight division. Figueiredo taking on Bo Nickal. A step up for Bo is what they're calling it, Shaun. Is it? Will it?
I think so. It's an interesting fight, just kind of the matchup here, because I mean, we saw with Bo fighting Bear Jew last time, he really had no interest in grappling at all. Bear Jew, obviously Bear Jew's a guard player. I don't blame him. Bear Jew has caught much better. I mean, I don't know about much better, but he's caught a bunch of guys that he probably
caught champions.
Yep.
Allegedly.
So then we kind of had a boring kickboxing fight where he kind of looked fairly rudimentary and wasn't able to, really impose his will against the Bear Jew, who will say his striking is mediocre at best. And so now he's fighting another grappler. De Ridder is obviously a good grappler. He's not really a guard player. So is Bo Nickal going to shoot some takedowns here and kind of ride out on top? I have a tough time seeing Bo Nickal subbing De Ridder. De Ridder is, like I said, very good at grappling. But if he doesn't, like, this is a weird fight, because if Bo Nickal doesn't grapple again because he doesn't want to grapple with a grappler, I don't know. This is probably a close striking fight. Like, early on, I thought Bo Nickal was, I thought he had the, he knocked out some bums, obviously. And his debut, obviously the one amateur fight, and then his debut, and then the cockburn on obviously short notice, he was able to smoke. But De Ridder's has been a champion in a decent organization. Like, this is a good test, and like I said, if it stays on the feet, this becomes a very close fight, and I think we're going to learn a bunch of things when it comes to Bo Nickal on Saturday. So I don't mind trying to put a small amount on De Ridder to find out what Bo Nickal is. If he comes in and just lays on him for 15 minutes, I guess it is what it is. He does probably have the wrestling to do that. We'll see. 15 minutes, long time to grapple. I guess if there's somebody who can, it's Bo Nickal, but I'll pay to find out.
Yeah. I love me some Bear Jew. I mean, like, probably number 2 Bear Jew guy on the planet right here. That was not a good look for Bo. That he was on the feet with him, like obviously the faster guy with more power, but couldn't really do anything because now he's fighting a guy who's a much better striker than that, but also like probably a significantly better grappler than the Bear Jew. If he ends up right on top of RDR and can ride that out for 15 minutes, as Shaun said, like, good job to you. He's got the wrestling to do it. I don't know if he has the wrestling to do it in all facets of the game. Like if they get stuck up in the cage, if his wrestling's as good there, because all of his takedowns have been super clean sort of things early in his career. And if it ends up on the feet, then like I as we said, he was competitive with the Bear Jew. I think he's going to lose on the feet in this fight. So RDR, leg 3 of Ye Old Round Robin. I'm sure you can probably see where this is going, but plus 250 or better on RDR. That is reasonable considering the skills that he has and the kind of limitations so far that we've seen from Bo, who could still be an incredible prospect. Can we still say prospect? If you're a 29-year-old middleweight, are you a prospect anymore?
Only has 7 professional fights, so I guess that's a prospect. But yeah, 29 is...
It's kind of like now or never, right?
Yeah.
Like guys have been champions later into their 30s, but that's usually not when they announce themselves as good fighters. But we'll see. An uncommonly excellent wrestling career from one Bo Nickal. So we do not want to discount the man entirely, but we'll take the shot here. And finally, main event, bantamweight division, Corey Sandhagen, Davison Figueiredo. There's a couple very, very interesting, a couple very, very should be entertaining, and a couple just like kind of intriguing fights on this card. I don't hate it, Shaun. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen.
Definitely not. And at the top end, there's intriguing fights. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you look at this fight, that's Corey Sandhagen minus 500, minus 520, whatever it is. It's interesting. I've kind of always thought that Corey Sandhagen is very good. He's very skilled. He does have some holes in his game. Obviously, he's worked a bit on shoring them up, the grappling, but at this weight class, Figueiredo is mostly a grappler now. That was a tough fight for him against Peter Yan, who has very good takedown defense, as we've seen. I don't think Sandhagen has quite that level of takedown defense. And if Figueiredo can get a couple takedowns on Sandhagen, this could be much closer than a minus 500. I still am waiting for Figgy to just kind of let his hands go at this weight class. I don't know if he's worried about the power at this weight class, or I'm not sure, but like it feels like in some of these fights, if we saw the Figgy, the elite Figgy that we saw at 25, I think he could have a little bit more success. Now, is that just age? Because obviously he is getting up there. He is 30, 37 years old at bantamweight.
But he's a flyweight, so that's like he's like 34 now that he's up 10 pounds.
Something like that. Something like that. But these are both very skilled fighters, and one being minus 500 just seems off to me. Corey Sandhagen probably wins this fight. But I could also see this being a very close decision with, grappling, having close rounds and stuff like that. And if you're going to give me like plus 385, plus 375 on a guy that's probably going to keep this a somewhat close fight, I'll take it.
Yeah, this one's kind of simple to me. Like, I've literally never seen Davison Figueiredo look like he should be a 375 plus 400 underdog in any fight ever. So I don't know why all of a sudden that he's fighting some tall ginger that can't wrestle, he should suddenly be that price. Like, I get he's tall, he throws a lot of strikes, he still can't stop takedowns, and that's what Figgy's good at, and like arguably even better at 135 than 125, because guys are somewhat controllable. So if he gets takedowns, he can actually hold it a bit. Still got tons of pop on the feet. Sandhagen's obviously going to win the volume game for as long as they're standing up there, but volume doesn't always do it. So some big shots from Figgy could steal around there, here or there. Honestly, if this does go 25 minutes, it's probably going to be Sandhagen winning a 48-47, 49-46 type of decision. But I think there's enough potential that Figgy could get a few takedowns, land a couple big things to steal a few rounds that it's worth betting him at like plus 400. So we got Figgy, we got RDR, we got Jeremy Stevens, and we got Marina Rodriguez decision. That's the round robin. That's the consensus. Find yourself a book that can do it and put whatever you would on the normal consensus. The full Yankees, 11 legs, so $10 a piece, $110, basically the same thing that we normally do. Bob's your uncle. Have a day, folks. Because those are always fun. They're, even if you lose them, they're usually live until the last leg, unless you're real bad, which we might be at this point. Who knows?
It's possible.
Might be washed or old. But that's what it be like. That's what makes the game entertaining, and there's always the hope. Shaun, do we got anything to add, or just want to watch some hockey at this point?
Let's go watch some hockey. We got UFC Montreal next week. Not amazing fights at the top, but we got Jose Aldo fighting Eamon Zahavi.
Like, that's the thing that gets me, is it's Aldo fighting. It's the one guy that I really want to see that I've never seen live. So like, I'm struggling with it.
I saw him knock out the aforementioned Jeremy Stevens in Calgary way back when.
You Western motherfuckers get all the good shit. As like everyone knows. Historically, like not a place where bad cards have gone.
Definitely not.
Yeah. So, like, I'll have to reconsider my thoughts for UFC. What is that? 315?
Yeah.
We'll see. But the ticket prices maybe they'll come down a little bit on secondary closer to the card. Not worth it for me at this point. That's going to do it for us. Enjoy whatever sport you're playing, except football, because football, is terrible to watch.